Hey everybody, my name is Jared Malott. I'm here with my good friend Mateo and this is the Coltist. The Coltist is a podcast about the Indianapolis Colts, the Indiana Pacers, and the Indiana Fever. So, hey, since it just happened, go Colts, huh?
Yeah, great to finally get back to, get
Win
back to
ways.
500, beat
Mm-hmm.
a good football team, a really good football
Mm-hmm.
team we just beat. And historically, that's a team that we had trouble beating.
Yeah.
Like I was checking, I was writing an article, and before last season we beat them, do you remember, 30-13?
Mm-hmm.
But before that, we had lost like I believe it was 8 or 9 games in a row to them. So now, yeah, it's the second time in a row we beat the Steelers.
Yeah. And
I don't
that's
know,
Shane
just
Steichen and his staff,
yeah.
right?
And
Um,
I think other than the Patriots, the Steelers, or perhaps, also the Titans, but the Steelers have to be up there in teams that I enjoy beating the most.
yeah. Yeah, like I was saying in our little pre-show meeting, I was saying like, hey, anytime you can beat the Steelers, you're doing something right. Obviously there's a lot of things that happened in this game. I wanted to start out and I wanted to tell my little story. I woke up this morning thinking like, when is Michael Pittman Jr. gonna like show
Yeah.
up, right? I say all that to say Michael Pittman Jr. today, man, I think he
I believe it
had
was,
seven
yeah,
catches.
six. Yeah, 6 or 7 for 120, something like that.
6 for 113. So man,
Okay.
he showed up to work today. So I just thought about that. That was funny. Literally, the first thing I thought about when I woke up, I was like, "Oh man, Michael Pittman's had a really quiet season." I don't know why that happened this morning, but then obviously he
Yeah.
had himself a monster game, so that felt really good. It feels like,
Josh Downs also he was struggling, and to
yeah,
give you credit, like you were saying in our Stampede Blue Discord stuff, you were saying, hey, Josh Downs, he was one of the focal points of the offense, and we were without him. And, last week he was just getting, right back into the action. He missed the entire preseason, he missed training camp because of that ankle sprain. So, understandable. He was getting back into the action last week, and this week he had what was it, like 8 for 82, I believe, and a touchdown. I know he scored, and I know he
yeah.
got over 75.
hmm And it feels like Anthony Richardson and AD Mitchell will eventually meet in the misconnections on Craigslist. Because they just haven't been able to really do much together. It's kind of difficult to do that when, in my eyes, as a fan of the sport, as someone who coaches football, as someone who really gives a about what's going on here, it feels like the referees are letting people just hit Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
Anthony Richardson got hit first, got clipped in kind of the no man's land, if you will, on the lower back, by a play by Mika Fitzpatrick. And the reason that's kind of the no man's land is there aren't any pads there. It's kind of the meaty part of your lower back. Um, Wound up being a hit pointer. That's fine. But also he misses a couple plays, comes back in, runs the ball, tries to give himself up, and gets his clock cleaned. Is largely what I think happened because he did go to the tent and he came out with his helmet. Normally, if you have a concussion, you don't leave the tent with your helmet, right? So it wasn't a
yeah,
concussion. It's just he got hit he probably did really have a hit pointer. So he probably was dinged up, right? But then he also got hit again. And you're up three scores. And I'm telling you, someone
yeah,
from the analytics department was screaming, crying, take him out. Take him out. You don't have to have him to win. Like you're up 17-0. If Joe Flacco comes in here and puts up 10 points, we're winning this game. So take Anthony Richardson out of the football game. There's absolutely no reason to allow him
yeah.
uh to no, I wouldn't even say struggle because he was off to a hell of a start, right?
But yeah, just
He
being
was in his
there,
second
risk.
straight
Yeah,
scoring drive, right?
risk another big
In a
hit against.
process, right?
Yeah,
But I'm not risking. I wouldn't even say the season. So I was also talking to my wife about this today, and I think I said something about that in our pre-show. Like this is still like Anthony Richardson's first year as a quarterback in the NFL. I understand that this is his second season in the league, but he still feels like a rookie to me. Now, today he was to a terror. Like when you look at the box score, it's he didn't get to play much. He got injured, he got taken out. What's more important to me is that um for example, the title of this episode is episode 8, the Mark Herrmann
yeah,
episode.
9.
Okay, episode 9, sorry. Episode 9. And the way we decide what number or what person goes with what number episode is based on kind of like how long you wore the number. And Mark Herrmann went to Purdue, from Cincinnati, Ohio, played for the Colts for 9 seasons. He wore number 9, um, and had 16 touchdowns and 36 interceptions, and he was 3-9 as a starter. So Mark Herrmann is a great conversation piece when you're thinking about Anthony Richardson. He is the highest rated quarterback prospect of all time. How do you handle the highest
Yeah,
rated quarterback prospect of all time? Really carefully. And so when he gets hit in no man's land, when he gets his clock cleaned, you look at the scoreboard and say, do I have to have Anthony Richardson to win this football game right now? And if that answer is anything but an emphatic no, which you very rarely ever need a single person in order to win this particular football contest, you don't need him.
yeah. You don't need him. You take him out,
He's going to be great. Didn't need him today. We were up 17-0.
and we said it. Like I'm 100% sure if this was a week 15 divisional matchup against I don't know the Jaguars, and the game is just a one score game, he's playing. He's
Yeah.
out there, so there's no reason to worry about injuries. I think that the Colts. Coaching also, like if you watch the first 3 games, you saw they weren't running him that much. They are, you can tell they're trying to ease him in and, give him the easy throws first, which makes perfect sense in my opinion, because you need to walk before you can run.
Yeah.
And he's going to learn by playing and by making mistakes. I think I mean, that's the best way to learn. And for him to do that, he needs to be healthy. He needs to be out there. Of course, you are going to have to run him eventually because I think it will help him a lot in the passing game because it keeps defenses honest and it also helps JT on the option plays.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think they managed it perfectly. Perhaps, if just one criticism to how they handle it, his first play back on the field, they ran the that read option. Perhaps, I would just, run it with JT and let him get stably in the game again.
Yeah.
But that's just, I mean, that's perhaps might be a bit
Well, you remember
nitpicking.
it's an option play, so he pulled
Yeah,
it based on what he saw, right? So one of the things I've noticed, he's become a much more decisive runner, and I don't know how much a fan I am of that. See, I'm a big fan of, I would love for my quarterback to be productive with his feet, but I want to keep my quarterback upright. So what
yeah,
I do is I force my quarterback to the rail and out of bounds. And anything between where you were when you got to your drop back and the out of bounds marker, any getting tackled or hit or anything between here and the out of bounds marker is a failure on your part. If you have to get out of the pocket and you want to run with the football, you need to go to the sideline. Why? Because if that guy that hits you in the face or the head or grabs your face mask on the way down, I want you to be next to an official when it happens, right? I got to protect you. That's my job. So your job, if you got to escape, is you got to escape to the sideline. And Anthony's problem is that he wants to turn up in the gap and he wants to play like a ball player, and that's cool, bro. 20 years ago. But every year teams get better and they're drafting bigger, faster, stronger
Yeah,
players. And when bigger, faster, stronger players are ramming into each other, people are going to get hurt. And remember, Anthony Richardson is not some run of the mill quarterback prospect that you took on a flyer on. That's not what this kid is. He's special. I happen to think he's a darling. Like you watch week one, he didn't complete half of his passes, and he was the second highest rated quarterback in the NFL.
yeah,
Why? It's because every time he put the ball where it was supposed to be, lightning hit and it was a long completion. It was a touchdown. It was a big play. So he's got to learn. Obviously, we've talked a lot recently about hitting your layups, right? Taking
yeah,
what the defense is giving you, right? Um, like I said, circling back around, want to finish the same thought I started with. He's become a much more decisive runner. And now he looks even more dangerous because now he's like super fast. Like, wow, he's fast. That's also how you get hurt. So again, I don't mind that he's becoming a lot more decisive. That first down that he got, where he got hit the first time, was like, I don't mind that.
yeah,
The second one where he had gotten a couple yards and was trying to give himself up, he kind of maybe did that a little late. And it's like because it's not in your wheelhouse, why not instead of try to dive at that dude's knees, why not try to go out of bounds?
yeah,
And I think one of the things that I think of, try to think about with ball carriers is if I can get you out of bounds upright with the ball in your hand and like downfield, hey, mission complete. Like
yeah.
if we
And
score, we score. I just don't want, I try to think about Marvin Harrison, like running a post, posting somebody, catching the ball, he's wide open, and what does he do? He gives himself up. Like he's trying to extend his career, right?
yeah,
And so I think before fans get too butthurt, and get too in their feelings about Anthony Richardson getting taken out of the game today, the circumstances are very relevant for him getting pulled. And that was that we were in
yeah,
control of the football game and we didn't there's absolutely no expectation that you need him to win a game.
There's no need for him
You
to be
have
out
Joe
there.
Flacco. He could get you
Yeah, he showed today he's a
10
more than
points,
capable
whatever.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more
I
than
really like
capable.
what I saw from him today.
Yes, look, he looked fine. Is he mobile? No. But can he make decent decisions with the football? Absolutely. Scored points too. So I say all that to say, anytime you can beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, I like to think you're doing something right. That said, the Steelers have similar problems the Colts have. Those slow starts will kill you. Um, I kind of, you know, did not have great expectations today. I'll say it. I'll say it. There was a lot of defensive help was not available.
Yeah,
And I thought Justin Fields was playing well enough that I figured we would be playing from behind all day.
yeah. What was it
And
like? 5 or 6 starters that were missing?
yeah, well, I mean, on defense alone, I'm
Yeah,
thinking Buck and Kinney,
yeah. Buck, Kenny, Juju Brands. Yeah,
Juju
he's
Brents.
been missing since week one, but also Quiddy
Mm-hmm.
it will come
There's
that
four.
that's in the preseason, so
You're right.
I'm not sure if you count it, but if
No.
you're thinking about like when you envision perhaps the defense that will roll out this year, it's 5 or 6 guys short.
Yeah. And so for that unit, and so think about that now that you've said it. First couple weeks, couple rocky outings, the last couple weeks, you know, not only are winning football games, but the defense has played a lot better. get forcing turnovers, getting to the quarterback. And it hasn't all been Latu, but Latu has been productive, right? And so
Yeah.
it's great to see your first round draft pick, especially a pass rusher, get out there and be productive. It's just like to see him wrap somebody up and take him down, right? Um, but yeah, I think I'm about Colts out. You know what I mean? Like I said, my expectation was that the game was not going to go our way.
Yeah.
And so as a result, I'm pacing around my house back and forth in front of the TV, living and dying on every play, and mostly just being really happy about what I saw today. Like you were just
Yeah.
like,
If
the backers are tackling,
Yeah, they had an amazing game. And
they're
I was
forcing
critical of
Justin
them.
Fields
Yeah.
to do it himself, right?
I
It's what it kind of
was
felt like to me is they were basically like the only person that's going to beat us is going to be Justin Fields, and he's going to have to do it with his feet and his arm. You know what I mean?
I was really critical of the linebackers before. I hated the way that Franklin and Speed started off the year, and they really turned it around. So
Yeah.
credit to them. And Jalen Jones also had a decent game again. He's been, slowly getting used to that outside role. And if we do have some bad news to take out from this game, is that JT apparently has a we'll wait for confirmation before, but he seems to have a high ankle sprain, same injury he had last year. So yeah, he could miss. He looks set to miss, at least a couple
Oh,
of weeks.
JT's got an ankle sprain.
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, that's fair. 21 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. He had a pretty tough day at the office. Um, it's unfortunate, he come up limp, but um, Colts gonna have to start doing some voodoo. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Do something, some witch
yeah. That's
doctors in
really
there.
really
What
tough luck.
what they're doing is just, gosh, it's just every week. The injuries just pile up. But I suppose that's football. It's a war of attrition, right? Um,
Yeah,
Thinking
and
of
and it's
attrition and loss, what were you gonna say?
no, yeah. I think it's the Jags next, right? Is it Jacksonville or the Titans?
It's Jacksonville.
Oh, it's yeah, Jags away. Yeah, it's never a good one. That's
So it
yeah.
doesn't
Ah,
really matter how
shit.
the
That's
Colts are doing. There are
yeah.
certain
I mean,
games every year where you're like, this is just one
yeah.
they could
That's
lose.
I mean, Peyton could be back at quarterback, and we could bring the entire Hall of Fame back together, and I would still think we are losing against the Jackson duel. I don't know what it is with that place, but I know it's going to be a
Yeah,
bad Sunday.
well, you've never been there. So Jacksonville is the most disappointing city I've ever been in my life. And I say that I'm not even speaking on that football team. I'm talking about when you fly into Jacksonville, you're like, oh God, really? It's just an airport surrounded by subdivisions. It's just nowhere near the ocean. It's just
Yeah,
north central Florida. There's nothing to do here. All of the fun things are an hour and a half, 2 hours away. All the reasons you go to Florida,
yeah,
Universal. Yeah. So, and I am totally talking smack about Jacksonville, Florida. Um, that's a the and I was trying to segue into talking about the girls. Speaking of attrition and loss, the Indiana Fever season ended last week. The Fever were eliminated from the WNBA playoffs.
yeah,
They lost 2 games in a row to the Connecticut Sun. I am officially uh, adding my name to if anybody has a petition to ban 3 game series
yeah. I
from
mean,
sports. It's
makes
either
makes
one game
just
series on a neutral court or we're playing a 5 to 7 game series.
Makes
Um,
no sense at all just to have best of three. I mean,
best of three, and
makes no sense
the
whatsoever.
girls didn't get to host a home game,
Yeah,
so
that's all.
an
Yeah,
awful way to die. But I wanted to talk about uh, signs of greatness, and the Fever have been bad as an organization for a while. So obviously they're so fortunate to have been so bad that they got to draft Leah Boston and Caitlin Clark
yeah,
back in back-to-back drafts because they're very consistent elite players. And so even in the losses, I noticed that those two specifically still were productive and had good games.
yeah,
And what that will do in the future for the franchise is it'll motivate the other players to be like, I want to have a good game in and game out. Because it isn't about what you do in one game, it's about what you do over time, right? And for that team to go from worst in the WNBA 2 years in a row to a playoff team in one season with like a rookie point guard in Caitlin
yeah.
Clark.
A rookie. I mean, the best player on the team was a rookie who was not only a rookie but also a player that had, you could argue that the most pressure any player in the WNBA faced.
Yeah.
And the spotlight, I mean, the spotlight was clearly on her, and
Hmm.
you have the numbers to support that. At every game she was playing, it was sold out. People were tuning in, people were watching her.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, who knows? I mean, the scary part is that she was already perhaps, you could make the argument that a top 10, 15 player in the WNBA right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at the numbers before and I was like, okay, being really tough on her. I mean, not trying to be as, subjective as possible.
Right.
That's a top 10, 15 player. And this was just her rookie season. So
Right.
imagine what it would be like next year and the year after that.
Yeah. When she learns all the people she's
Yeah.
playing against, their little tells and their little ins and outs, and things that they can and can't defend. Um, no, she's a rocket ship. Um, gosh, and when I think about Caitlin Clark, Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Richardson, it's just like, man, what a great time to be alive. Like, um,
Yeah.
obviously hate to lose in the playoffs, and so bitching about
Yeah, but
the
I
playoff
don't think
system.
that any Fever fan can be upset about how this season went.
No, that's what I was getting ready to
Like,
say.
I mean,
Like,
of course it
I
sucks,
bitch
but
about the playoff system as I lose, but I have no doubts this group will be back
yeah,
with a vengeance, and I'm excited what kind of players, uh, girls like Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, obviously Caitlin Clark. What kind of players can you become in an off season after a good season, right? Where you put some things together. Everybody was on the same page. We were winning back to back games. You know what I mean? Like we were really hustling. Um,
yeah. And
and
I
look to
will
see the
need
the
to
the team move forward. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I will need to look into, how the WNBA free agency usually works. But if I'm, a marquee free agent in this offseason, I'm saying, hey, what team do you want to go to? I want to go to the Fever.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, you get to play with the most unselfish player who specializes in passing the ball, and you get perhaps the most eyes on you will ever get playing for any other team because the Fever, because of Caitlin Clark, are getting the most eyes on them. So if you, I mean, you go there, you will get more exposition. So it makes, the perfect sense for anyone to want to go. I mean, to come play with us.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And typically the best players go into a bad small market team, right? You added Caitlin Clark to that mix and immediately became a playoff team. So another draft, another off season. I look forward to the rise of the Indiana Fever. Um, absolutely think Caitlin Clark's a deserving Rookie of the Year. I
Yeah,
thought that long before Angel Reese went out, for the record, and a lot of people have stayed on this narrative, the Reese versus Clark narrative, and I just want to point out how both of those women have talked about playing together, and how uh, Dawn Staley had said if she got to do over, Caitlin Clark would have been on the Olympic team. She didn't say that about Angel Reese. And that's no slight to Angel Reese. It's just a very unselfish player helps your team win. A very productive player, Angel Reese, that doesn't
yeah,
always help your team win. So a productive player is one that gets a lot of rebounds and blocks shots and stuff like those things are great, but those don't win games. It just so happens that there's a ball involved and scoring is kept. And so what it really is about is creating points. So I understand that there's arguments all around, but I like to be like logical. So yeah, I'm not surprised Caitlin Clark won Rookie of the Year. I look forward to her winning many MVPs.
yeah,
At many points, I was saying Steve Nash. Like she reminds me of Steve Nash. Obviously she has absurd range and pull-up permission. But she's incredibly unselfish. She's tough. She's emotional. She gets she gets under her opponent's skin, and she motivates her teammates. So she kind of is the embodiment of what you gotta have to win big games, right? Gotta have somebody that's not afraid to take the big shot, somebody that's unselfish, somebody that just wants to see the team win. And man, we're just lucky to have Caitlin Clark on our side, right? I figure, say all that to say, it's been really nice seeing Caitlin Clark was at the Colts game today, sitting in a box. Halliburton has been coming to Colts games, and now it's like going to be everybody's turn to repay, right? Um, the Pacers, the Indiana Pacers start preseason basketball not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday,
yeah,
7:30 in Atlanta. So Pacers basketball is right around the corner. Obviously, like we said, thrilled to get a win over the Steelers. That's a great organization. Congratulations to the Indiana Fever on making the playoffs. And then, like I said, Pacers basketball
yeah. Really excited for that because I think
right around
this
the
is
corner.
all the makings, in all the makings of a great season. I think that I think that the national media, who is, by the way, on I believe they're probably their most disrespectful time towards the Pacers I have ever seen in my life. And they are just not taking into account that Matherin will be back. I see no mention of it anywhere. Like no one ever mentions. I'm like, do you guys not realize this is a potential, six man of the year, perhaps, even the favorite for the award? Because if you assume that it's gonna be okay, Tyrese, Nemhard, Nesmith, Siakam, and Turner, then
Mhm.
Matherin's the six man. He will play probably like 25 minutes a game, 30. And that's easily, the in my opinion, of course, the favorite to take home six man of the year. No one's talking about him.
Well, right, it's because the national media is going to be dominated by the New York Knicks,
Yeah,
who trade for Joel
yeah,
Embiid.
Cat.
They trade for
Yeah,
Carl
Carl
Anthony
Anthony
Towns.
Towns.
Sorry, I don't know why I said Joel Embiid. Um, but yeah, giving up. Um, oh, what is
Yeah,
his name?
DiVincenzo and
DiVincenzo
Randall.
after the season he had. It's crazy. I don't know that Julius Randle and DiVincenzo for Carl Anthony Towns is. It's like you gave away the heart and soul of your starting
Yeah,
five
and you
for
could also make the
someone.
argument.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that that they were, of course, they were all players taking discounts. I mean, Jalen Brunson clearly took a discount, probably to keep playing with his friends. I mean, with Mikal Bridges and with Devin Jensen, with Josh Hart, and you go out and you trade one of those. I don't think Brunson liked that.
Right. And I don't think giving up DiVincenzo and Julius Randle helps you beat the Pacers. I don't think adding Carl Anthony Towns helps you beat the Pacers. So they did all that to lose to Indiana in the playoffs. Okay. That's going to dominate the media. But didn't the Pacers sign someone off the street that was like a former first round draft pick? It was like
Yeah,
out of basketball.
Wiseman.
No, it was in the last day or two.
Oh, let me check.
They um
Cole
I'm gonna
Slider
choose.
and Enrique Freeman. I don't think those are the ones you're talking about. Ah, Jaleel Okafor.
Yeah. Jaleel Okafor.
Oh,
Anyway,
I remember that. Yeah, I thought he
yeah.
was gonna be, and those are every now and then, comes a guy where you're like, yeah, this guy is surely gonna be a Hall of Fame type player, and
Well, he
he
was out
ends
of
up being,
basketball.
yeah, he's
So
not
this
even
is he was
playing.
making his return and he got picked up by Indy. Like that's awesome. Like what if he
Yeah.
sticks? What if he's legit? I'm really excited for I can never remember his name. Mostly because he's a huge person and he ends up being a ball handler. Jerace Walker.
Ah, yes.
I'm excited for him, his continued development. Again, one of the things about like the regular season NBA, like first of all, regular season NBA is really long. It needs to be shortened. It's like 70 games, 65
Yeah.
games. Um, Way too many basketball games before we get to the playoffs. Um, but yeah, because it is a season game, like the real way to win is the off season. And so that's what I think I get the most excitement out of is seeing players develop year to year. Um, Football is difficult because people get injured. Um, Basketball is sort of the ones where, a guy can go from he's a really good player, but he just has terrible gas
Yeah.
to now his conditioning is elite. Hey, now he's TJ McConnell, right? And not saying that his conditioning was ever awful. I was just using him as an example. But yeah, I look forward to sort of the team taking a step forward together and seeing what that can sort of yield. Um, so yeah, like I said, what a time to be an indie sports fan.
Yeah.
Like it's actually like juicy. You know what I mean? Like the Pacers have realized you can't take a big step back if your starting quarterback goes down.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of be able to maintain a minimum threshold. You got to put points on the board, score touchdowns in the red zone, stuff like that. Um, Bad teams don't win that game. You know what I mean? Bad teams slip up. Pittsburgh comes back and beats them. Um, and I think about the Colts are 2 points from being 3-1.
Yeah.
2 points from being 3-1. The Fever just lost in the playoffs, and the Pacers season's getting ready to start in a year where they're in a sort of like a championship window. It's a great time to be alive, right?
Yeah. It's a great time to be an Indiana sports fan. And I think that the last time I was this excited about both the Pacers and the Colts, probably 2013, 14. That was 10
Mhm.
years ago.
10 years. It's been a
10
decade.
years ago.
been a
It's a
decade.
long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody, we appreciate you. Obviously, if you're listening to a podcast this long, please like, comment, share, subscribe, anything. Let us know how you feel about what we got going on. Obviously, anytime you and I can get together, it's a good time. Colts got the Jags up
Yeah, man.
next.
Difficult game, but hopefully, I don't know.
A
We'll see how it
historically
goes.
difficult game. Yeah, yeah. It's been a rough ride. But yeah, we'll see you after next week's games. See ya.
Yeah.